Hello guys, welcome back to a new part of Android tutorial. In today's episode, we are going to learn about bind services in Android. A bind service can create in three ways. First one is you can create a bind service by extending the binder class, and second one is you can use the messenger for creating a bind service, and final method is you can use the Android interface definition language for creating a binder method, a bind service. So in this episode, I'm going to create a service which is service used by extending the binder class. For creating a bind service, here I'm going to create a new project. It's an Android application project. I name it as, here I'm going to name it as bind service binder app, and change the project name as binder project pjct, and click next, and again click next. Here create a blank activity. Here is the activity name and is XML layout. Okay, we got the project on the IDE. Here is the layout of the project. Okay, here I am going to create a new service. So create a new Java class and name the class as my service, and browse for a super class and search for service and select the service and click OK, and finally click finish. Now we got the class that extends service, and here I'm going to create an inner class called private public. Here I'm going to create an inner class called public class local binder, and here I'm going to extend this class using binder extends binder. Okay, here I'm going to create an object of iBinder. So private final iBinder. I name the object as mbinder equal to new local binder, that is the inner class. Okay, so now I'm going to create a method for returning the service to the client. So public here the return type is my service, that is the class name my service. Here the return type is an object of my service class, and here the method name is get service, and it will return my service dot this. Okay, now on the iBinder I'm going to return that mbinder, which is an object of iBinder. Okay, here I'm going to create a method for the client to interact with the service. So here I'm going to create a method for find the factorial of a number. So public int find factorial. So in this example, I just find out the factorial using the service and send the result back to the service, result back to the activity which is bounded to the service. So create a method which has a return type int, and it also have an argument of index. Here I'm going to create a variable int fact equal to 1, and here is the code for finding factorial of a number int I equal to starting with 0, and here is the condition I less than or equal to, sorry, here is a factorial, so I start I equal to 1 and I less than or equal to x, and increment the value of I, and here is the fact equal to fact into I, Okay, now return fact. Now after processing the for loop, we got a result in fact, so return that variable fact. Okay, now we completed code on service. Now we have to make the layout for the application, and before it we have to register the service on the Android manifest file. So go to the XML Android manifest.xml, and here I'm going to create a service tag service and provide the Android name equal to Android name is equal to dot. Here the class name of service is my service. Again save it. Again save the project. Now we can create GUI for the application. So for binding the service I add a button, and for unbinding the service I add another button, and for accessing the number from user place a edit text, and for finding factorial of that number again place a button. Okay, so here change the text of the first button as bind service, and here is the second button. Change the text of the second button as unbind service, and provide an hint for the edit text, Android hint, enter number here, and provide a text for the third button, find factorial. Okay, just now we have to align the text on the edit text at the center, so we can use the Android gravity for it. So Android gravity, so we are going to create on click method for the buttons. The first button for Android, first button is the bind service, so bind method. First button on click method is bind method, and here is the second button, and provide an on click method for it, Android on click factorial method. Here I am name it as factorial method, and here is the unbind button. Provide an on click method for it, Android on click unbind method. Okay, again save the project. Now we can align the text on the edit text at the center using Android gravity. So Android gravity equal to center. Again save the project. Okay, now we completed the GUI of the application. So again go to the main activity.java file. Now here we have to create the on click methods for the button. So first method, public void bind method. This method is for the bind service button. So we need an argument view, import the view class object. Also we need two more methods for other two buttons. Okay, here the second method is unbind method. Here is the third button, which is factorial method. Okay, again save the project. Okay, we have to check that method is factorial method. Okay, here I'm going to create an object of the service class. So my service, I name it as my service. Also for finding out the status of the service, I create a boolean status and initialize it as. So here I'm going to create a service connection object, service connection. I name the object as sc equal to new service connection. So here we got two methods, on service disconnected and so on service connected. So So I'm going to connect the service. So I'm going to create an object of the local binder class, local binder, which is the inner class on the service. Local binder equal to service. Okay, here is a service, the iBinder object, and cast it into local binder. Local binder. Okay. Now we have to initialize the my service object. Here my service object is mservice. So mservice equal to binder dot get service. That service return the binder object, iBinder object, and assign status is true. That means here the service is binded. Okay. Now we are going to create code for connect the bind the service. So we need an indent object, indent I equal to new indent this comma, provide the class name. Here the class name is my service dot class. Now bind the service using bind service method. We need to import indent object, indent class here. Now start the service using bind service method. Bind service. It's not bind method, it's bind service. Bind service. Provide that indent object first. Indent object is I, and provide the service connection object. Finally provide a flag. It is context dot bind auto create. Now set the value of status into true. Status equal to true, because now the service is binded, and display a message using toast dot make toast. Get base context, and provide a message that tell the service is successfully binded. Service binded successfully. Service binded successfully. Provide duration for the toast. Toast dot length long, and now make the toast visible using show method. Okay, again save the project. Now I'm going to unbind the service. So before we have to check whether the status is true or false. If status is true, that means now the service is binded. So we have to unbind it, unbind service, and provide the service class service connection object. Okay. Again display a message using toast that represent the service is successfully unbinded. Service unbinded successfully, and change the value of status into false. Status is equal to false. Okay, again save the project. Or in the else case, the service is already unbinded. Service already unbinded. Save the project. So now we have to find the factorial of the number. So we have to check the status whether it is true or false. Before going to code, we have to connect that edit text. We have to fetch value from the edit text. So we need an object of edit text here. Edit text. Create an object called txt, and txt equal to find view by id, r dot id dot That object name is edit text1. Now we have to cast it into edit text. Edit text. Okay, save it. Now here I'm going to create an integer variable int num equal to, parse it into integer dot parse integer dot parse int txt dot get text dot toString, and for getting result, create a variable called result equal to, here the service class object is mservice dot that method is called find factorial, and provide that num as argument. Okay, now we have to print out the result. So factorial is equal to plus result. Okay, now we successfully completed the coding. Or on the else case, you have to bind the service first. If the status is false, that means the service is not binded. So in that case, first you have to bind the service. Okay, save it. Now we have to run the project. So right click the project and run as Android application. Open the emulator. Okay, now the project is launched. First we have to bind the service. Service binder successfully. I unbind it. Service unbinded successfully. Again I bind the service and provide a number 3 and find factorial. Okay, we got the result, factorial equal to 6. Now unbind the service unbinded successfully. Okay guys, this is how to use bind service in Android by extending the binder class. You got the complete source code of this topic from my blog. My blog URL is given under the description of this video. Please subscribe my channel. Thank you for watching.